I'm Isa Goldberg, president of Drama Desk, and it is just terrific to see all of you here today and some new faces. Especially thrilled to introduce our lady of the day, our moderator, Dr. Carol Rocamora. Carol is for.
So, why Shakespeare, why now? Clearly, it's a rhetorical question. My favorite answer to that question is that because Shakespeare attracts the finest theater artists on the English-speaking stage. You see them before you, who rise.
It's like a cliff face here. I mean, some nights you stand in front of it at 25+7, you think, I don't know how to get grappling hooks into this at all. It's extremely daunting in some ways. Because the play is savage and unremitting and cruel, and obviously, as we all know, that almost the last word on human brutality, savagery. In doing it, I realized what the difficulty with it is, which is that Lear has no soliloquies like Hamlet. I mean, you play the big Shakespeare parts, and you have the gift of a relationship with the audience. Hamlet talks to the audience continuously, there is confidence. Lear has no such thing, so he's locked away inside the play, and it makes it much, much more difficult. It's hard from a professional and practical point of view, because you have to play it when you're old enough, but you have to play it when you're young enough to be able to learn the lines, which is a consideration. And sometimes the window in which those two standards apply is quite narrow. It may only be a few months. And you've got
Dan Sullivan's long and distinguished career, both as a director of Shakespeare and of New American Plays, has earned him a place in the American Theater Hall of Fame. Entertainment value to the level of an As You Like It or a Twelfth Night. How did you do that?
I have no idea. I think we all know that.
Yes.
You know, even the easiest of Shakespeare's are not easy.
How did you come? And her magical Tempest, starring Helen Mirren and Ben Whishaw.
So you have to get to the essence, the expression. So if you were to say, all right, what would be one of the words in Midsummer Night's Dream that comes up over and over again? One of them is shadows. If we shadows have offended, the king of shadows, we are but shadows. The shadows, for Shakespeare in general, the word shadows is strong. The other idea is, of course, dreaming, but that everything was hand done. No computers moving these things up and down. It was much, much faster. And also very organic. Very organic. So this sheet became not just a bed sheet, but then it rises up and becomes a canopy of sky, where you see the clouds. We use projections, because basically it's a black box floor, like a magic box, lacquered box, and a white sheet. And then it became the wedding tent. And then it became the bower for Titania, and a hammock for Titania. Then it became, in a sort of strange way, these togas, once the four lovers had been cleansed and had gone through their experience and stripped down, they end up wearing these almost pure white initiate sheets. So, and the tablecloth for the wedding table. So many, many forms, and of course, you could use it for the shadows. So that was the concept, and that is the idea of an ideograph, and if you didn't see the show...
Jack O'Brien was the inspiration.
Yeah.
We had this idea about witchcraft and magic, and he called me on the telephone. I've known Jack since 1969. I was in his big Broadway flop, The Selling of the President. And I've worked with him quite a lot. So he called and pitched me a witch. And if any of you know Jack, you know how seductive he is. So I said, sure, I'll come play with you.
Well, just that I also played a witch in Macbeth. I mean, but I do defer to you because I didn't have the breasts.
Oh.
And I regret it now. Let's see, getting a lot of time on this one scene, trying to get through the rhetoric and make sense of it, and somebody said, can we please stop
trying to be sophisticated. I'm trying to bring some sort of sophisticated cosmopolitan lubrication to these speeches and just try to say them as simply as possible. And then the idea came of like, let's try and talk like Native Americans. And so we started doing that as best we could. There was one guy who grew up in Wisconsin, and so he had this amazing sort of very modern reservation type accent that he could do. We were all trying to copy that. And it was fun, and it was also like just starkly different from the sort of thing we had been trying to do before. And then all the metaphors about the earth and the sky and the birds suddenly had another sort of resonance for us, you know.
Your work in Shakespeare and the audience. Julie, you commented that you just taped your brilliant Midsummer Night's Dream with the audience in the taping. Can you talk about how that got incorporated and how that enriched?
Yeah, but that being in rehearsal with those kids was the greatest audience one could ever have, because their mouths would just drop at the dialogue, drop as they saw these relationships between the lovers, be floored by the comedy. In fact, when they were sitting up in the balconies watching Pyramus and Thisbe, I had to tell them to shut up after a while because it would annoy the regular audience.
Yeah, that audiences go to see Shakespeare because it's familiar. I think quite the opposite. I think we go because we know that it's going to be unfamiliar to us, that if it's good, we're going to find things that we never knew were there. And I know that every time I sit down to prepare...
They really like you. The warmth is unparalleled when it works. And these days at the Polonsky, dealing with Lear and feeling that is one of the highlights of my life, really. Whereas, of course, English audiences can sometimes sit on their hands a bit, and even when they cheer, it can be a way of congratulating themselves rather than... I haven't noticed that.
In working with Shakespeare has been your most difficult, and what moment are you most proud?
To practically drown you at the end of this play. And he said, great, that's great. And that was it. That's how we decided to do it.
Such a celebration. Audiences have a fantastic appetite for this sort of thing. And there's a collegiate feeling in the house between them and the audience, which I've never quite felt since, but it was an insane activity, which nearly bankrupted us and wrecked us, but it's done now.
I'm now about to go into rehearsal for this Much Ado. In the 70s, I played Benedict at the Globe, and quite successfully too. I had a wonderful time, and I'm a bit terrified about playing Leonardo right now. A lot of it is this fuzz in my brain about learning the role. So I'm wondering how I did that. So I don't know what I'm proud of. I'm proud that I did all those things, and I'm hoping that I'll figure this Leonardo guy out. He was just a fascinating man, and I still have in my head I'm a young guy, but I guess Leonardo might have the same feeling.
Okay, so the concept was everybody's covered in clay. Everybody. Horses, motorcycles, army, hundreds of people, Hopkins, Jessica, everybody. And it was January and freezing cold. Hopkins, who said, absolutely, we're putting this clay, Harry Lennox, naked, buried in a hole, and it was snowing. So, you know, we're doing all of these. So it's sort of a proud and difficult simultaneously, is when your idea is a great idea, and then it's very difficult to carry out because it's not necessarily a pleasant experience for everybody. But I said to Jeffrey, I have this idea, I want 100 children on stage, and they're going to be the rude elementals. And Jeffrey went, okay. 100? You know, it ended up being 17, but still, you know, if you're working off Broadway and you...
that I had to do something that was truly in tandem with him, and I eventually just had to learn to value this as an incredible opportunity, to collaborate with an actor from the past. And so, yeah, it was something very difficult that became quite wonderful.
This is why we as directors and actors and all get so excited, is that play is about monogamous love, it's about lust, flirtation, it's about all the things that you better not think about, so let's do it in one night because you think you're getting married. He's a cynic, and yet he has the biggest heart. And I think the ability to put the heart with the cynicism is something that rarely happens. We have a lot of modern things that are very cynical.
Contemporary playwrights aren't nearly so open to cuts as Shakespeare. He's very one character play, the two character play, and the one character play are what theaters are looking for at this point. So it's, I would say contemporary writers are not encouraged to write in that vein.
If I had a time machine, what would I do? The first thing I'd do is I'd go see the production, see the Hamlet at the Globe when it first played, you know? And it's just like, that gives me some comfort about having chosen this as my life, you know? It's like, well, I guess I'm in the right thing if that's my first time machine choice. But I think it's
not too long. They're also, you know, when the words are too difficult to convey, change a word there cheaply. It really doesn't matter. He wouldn't mind in the slightest. Also, what strikes me more and more as I get older is you become, as with an old friend, more tolerant of him. Because it's always the Shakespeare loves nothing more than a good pun. He loves jokes about syphilis. He'll bring them in whenever he can. It's really a pain in the butt. So, these are things we have to forgive as well as, you know, we do them with love. Come on.
I think we end on a merry note. Thank you so much.